And we want to welcome you into the first edition of the RO Sports Show, brought to you tonight by First Health of the Carolinas. We appreciate you joining us if you're listening on the Classic Rock, our 24/7 radio network, or if you're listening on Facebook or the YouTube channel or richmondobserver.com. We appreciate you listening. Again, you are tuning in to the first edition of the RO Sports Show. I'm Lance Jenkins, and we have a panel full of greats here tonight. Folks native to Richmond County, so they know all about Richmond County sports, and we're going to be talking about national sports as well. Lots going on, and so we're going to have a jam-packed edition tonight. Not only that, special guest in studio, Matt Harrelson. He'll talk about it in just a moment. Columnist, Matter of Opinion on richmondobserver.com every Wednesday. He has an exclusive interview tonight with Scott Emerson, the pitching coach for the Oakland A's, the Oakland Athletics of Major League Baseball, who lives right here in Rockingham. Matt, we'll talk about that in just a bit. But why don't we just introduce ourselves, because a lot of folks may not know who we are. But I bet after a few episodes they're going to know who you are, and they're going to know what you think. Start with Mr. Jeremy McKenzie. Tell us a little about yourself. I know you're a councilman in the town of Ellerby, but tell us more about you.
Yes, I not only serve as the city councilman of Ellerby, North Carolina, I also serve as third vice chair for the North Carolina Democrat Party for the 9th Congressional District. I also serve as for the Richmond County Democrat Party. And I work at Lowe's, so if you need anything in plumbing or electrical hardware, etc., I demand to come to see me.
Well, that's good to know. Let me ask you this. Who's your favorite team? I mean, before we get too deep into the discussion tonight, you got a favorite team in any sport, really?
I'm an avid fan of the Keep Pounding Carolina Panthers. We will be back in the Super Bowl next year.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Is that a prediction?
That's my prediction.
We'll be talking about that in just a bit. Of course, Russell Parker, he's no stranger for sure. He is the executive producer of the video division here, including this show and Live at 5, which has been added as 120th episode today.
Oh, yes.
So, and not only that, he has a Tuesday segment every Tuesday on Live at 5, where he breaks down college football and NASCAR, and he'll be doing that and more right here on the RO Sports Show. Tell us about yourself, Russell.
Well, I first of all, know I'm a huge fan of Alabama, so Roll Tide, and I love NASCAR. What was that?
No, I'm just saying. I've been hearing that since August. But
I'm also native to Richmond County. Grew up in the sticks in Rockingham, and I love it here. I love the sports show we're doing here. I'm excited for it.
I guess Alabama would be your favorite team. How about that? Russell Parker, folks. And then, of course, Matt Harrelson, we talked about just a moment ago. He is the author to Matter of Opinion, which releases every Wednesday on richmondobserver.com. And not only that, yesterday you made your debut on Good Morning Sandhills.
Actually, that was this morning.
Yeah, well, it sounded great. But nonetheless, let's talk a little bit about you. Tell us about yourself.
Well, my name is Matt Harrelson. I am native of Richmond County. I've lived here pretty much my whole life except for college, and lived up in Moore County for a little bit. But since we're talking about favorite sports teams, I've got a plethora of them. I am a huge Tar Heel basketball fan.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Football fan. I knew you would. I'm also a Washington Redskins fan, which is something we're going to get into here in a little bit. But my number one team would have to be the Atlanta Braves. I'm a baseball fan first and foremost, so that's where my heart lies when it comes to sports. So.
A Braves fan. I never really liked the Braves. I don't know what it was. I don't like any of your teams.
Well, going to the playoffs 15 years in a row tends to sting some people. So
It does. Hey,
Chipper Jones is the best Braves player.
Yeah, talk about Chipper.
Ever.
Yeah, talk about Chipper. He's headed to the Hall of Fame.
That's right. He's headed to the Hall of Fame. And Chipper is probably my all-time favorite player, all-time favorite Braves player. Before him, it was actually Dale Murphy, though. I was a huge Dale Murphy fan growing up. As a guy that played the sport the right way, was always hustling, and was just a great player to not only watch on TV, but to also be able to go and see live at the stadium.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a big Braves fan. Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you all a little bit about me. I don't pull for anybody who wins usually, but I don't choose it that way. It just happens that way. I'm a Wolfpack fan. Go Pack. There's a reason we're still talking about 1983. That's because we hadn't done anything since then. But I'm a big Panthers fan. Big Panthers fan.
Yes, sir.
We're going to get along just fine. I do believe, yeah. And matter of fact, I know we're going to have Scott Emerson in later on today.
That's right.
But I want to say that I'm actually I'm a Baltimore Orioles fan, but I've always liked the Oakland A's. And it's real neat to have him in studio today for the interview. I actually got to see the A's play the Mariners a few years back at the Coliseum, and I'll tell you, just a fun experience. Really liked it.
Yeah, and we were talking. He and I were talking earlier today, and one of the things I was telling him I always loved about the A's was their uniforms.
Yeah.
Whether it was the all white uniforms or a new one that he told me they're going to use this year is the Kelly Green, which is obviously very similar to the uniforms that we wore at Richmond here for the Raiders.
That's
So,
right. Yeah, similar colors.
Yeah.
Real similar. Looking forward to having the Oakland A's pitching coach. That's a big deal. We appreciate him being a part of the show.
Absolutely.
On our first edition. Hey, folks, you're watching the RO Sports Show, brought to you by First Health of the Carolinas. We're gonna take a break right before we get too heated here. Now I don't want to get too heated and have to go to commercial break. We want to thank our sponsors. When we come back, we're going to be talking about Alex Smith. He is headed to the Washington Redskins in what is a blockbuster trade. We've got Super Bowl 52 coming up in just a few days. So much more. And in local sports, Altman Griffin, she's signing with a college here in the state, a big deal to head to a college to play volleyball. Big deal. And she's now started late in her career, but she is a phenomenal player, and she's signing with a college here in the state, and it's a big one, folks. We'll be talking about that when we come back. Stay with us. The RO Sports Show coming up right after these messages.
At Richmond Community College, we can prepare you for a high-skill, high-paying career in a variety of fields. From business to education, engineering, utilities, healthcare, criminal justice, information technology, and human services. At Richmond Community College, we can save you thousands of dollars on tuition through our university transfer programs that provide a seamless transition to universities and colleges throughout North Carolina. At Richmond Community College, we are always developing new courses and programs in response to the communities we serve. We offer day, evening, and online courses, and you can now complete 5 curriculum programs entirely online. At Richmond Community College, we believe in helping you prepare for a better life. Richmond Community College. Local college, big impact.
And welcome back to the RO Sports Show, brought to you tonight by First Health of the Carolinas. And let's get right to it. On the docket tonight, we're coming off a big blockbuster trade that sent Alex Smith from the Kansas City Chiefs overnight to the Washington Redskins. I've got to get some feedback from you guys. We'll start with Matt. You are a Redskins fan. You followed this team for a long time. How do you feel about this trade?
Well, my initial thought was I was not happy about it. And the reason I felt that way is I hate for us to have to let Kirk Cousins go. And I realized that if we had franchise tagged him again, it was going to cost us $34.5 million. That's a ton of money. The contract that Alex Smith ended up signing with us is $94 million over 4 years. He's going to get 71 of that guaranteed. That actually comes out to be 23.5 a year. So looking at it money-wise, we're actually getting a deal, I guess, for Alex Smith. The thing that I hate, though, like I said, is we're going to lose Kirk Cousins. He's going to end up somewhere else. He's obviously going to get paid. But in my opinion, I think that Kirk Cousins is the better of the two quarterbacks, and so that's why I disapprove of the trade.
You really do. I mean, you think that I tend to disagree with that. I think you look like you might agree. I think Alex Smith is hands down the better quarterback. What are your thoughts?
My think is with Alex Smith, we're looking at the history of his career. You're looking at from 2005 to 2007, he was a total bust until coaching staff keep coming in, tutoring him, and coming to a offensive-minded system, learning the new system. As time progresses, he started getting better and better each year. But we're looking at a team, Kansas City, who pretty much resurrected his career, which to playoffs 2 out of the 3 seasons during his time there, and he became a Pro Bowler during that time with Kansas City. So I'm looking at it from a standpoint, Kansas City is losing out on trading Alex Smith because you're bringing in a guy now named Patrick Holmes who's going to take the full reins as a 16-game starter, which to me had little experience, but at the time we say we get the man the doubt that he can take full reins as a 16-game starter, but I feel like Kansas City lost out. And I think it's kind of the blessing to the Redskins. Just like what Matt said, we looking at it from Kirk Cousins will get picked up somewhere with a lot of money. I like seeing him in a New York Jets, Arizona, or even Denver.
Yeah, you know, I want to talk about Kirk Cousins here in just a bit too. Alex Smith, I mean, he did have success in Kansas City. If I'm a Redskins fan, I'm happy about this. I mean, let's be honest, Kirk Cousins, I mean, they're not making the playoffs. I mean, I know they did with Kirk at one point, but they're not making the playoffs now. I mean, so you got to think that a change of some capacity might be for the best.
I agree with that. I think what the point that I'm going to make that I think some people are missing is we had to live through the RG3 years, meaning Robert Griffin III.
Yes.
When he first came up, everybody thought he was the next big thing, and he may have been if he could stayed healthy. But once he got hurt, that was pretty much it for his career. He went into a downward spiral. Lo and behold, we still have Kirk Cousins on our bench. He comes in, starts playing for us, and was successful in my opinion. Now, yes, we only went to the playoffs once, I think, with him under center. But still, in this day and age in football, it's air it out, air it out, air it out. And I just look at Kirk Cousins as being better at that than Alex Smith. Alex Smith had a great season. Obviously, took the Chiefs to the playoffs this year, and the Redskins did not. But Kirk Cousins is also a guy that's going to throw for 4,000, 4,200 yards, something like that, and get you, close to 30 touchdowns. And I'm just not sure Alex Smith is going to be able to be that guy that can air it out and get us those 20, 40 plus yard passing plays. So, we're going to have to wait and see. Obviously, as I said during the break, these guys know more about it than I do. And hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully Alex Smith comes in and is a Pro Bowler again and takes us to the promised land. That'd be great. I just, at this moment, thinking about it for the last couple of days, I just, again, I'm kind of disappointed in it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, of course, I'm not a Redskins fan, but I like the deal for the Redskins. I think that, what did Kansas City get out of the deal?
Kansas City got a third-round draft pick, and at the time was a player to be named later. That guy ended up being, his name is Kendall Fuller. He's a cornerback. He was actually a starter for the Redskins, and I would imagine he's going to be a starter for the Chiefs as well. So not only are we going to we are going to be losing Kirk Cousins, but now we're also losing one of our starting cornerbacks. And defense wins championships in the NFL, and losing anybody that's one of your starters is going to hurt. So again, we'll have to wait and see what happens, and hope for the best.
We shall see. Now let's talk about Kirk Cousins. Here's a guy this is a rare opportunity for teams to take advantage of a good quarterback.
Yes,
I mean,
also a Pro Bowler.
Right. Maybe not the greatest of all time, and not a Tom Brady or a Peyton Manning, but he is certainly not the type of quarterback that usually hits free agency.
Yes.
And so most likely that's going to happen. Who's the right fit? Who could use a guy like Kirk Cousins?
I think in a situation for Kirk Cousins, I'll say it would be Arizona. Arizona, in the past few years, always been successful in veteran quarterbacks. You look at Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner coming from New York and played pretty well in St. Louis. Took those guys to the Super Bowl. Remember, with Pittsburgh Steelers, even though eventually lost. After Kurt Warner, you had Carson Palmer. Had some great success in Arizona. So I feel the better situation where you can get Larry Fitzgerald to catches and all of that. John Brown, David Johnson. You need a quarterback like Kirk Cousins, who's a guy who can come in, start right away, and can probably have some good success with the weapons around him.
He could excel there. I mean, he's got the weapons are there.
Yes.
Johnson's going to be coming back from injury. There's still some great receivers.
Yes.
I mean, he could do well there.
The team that I was thinking is one that you mentioned earlier is the Denver Broncos.
Yes.
I mean, these guys obviously went to the Super Bowl 2 years ago, beat the Panthers, I had to throw that in there. Had that great defense, still have a great defense. And another one of those teams that seems like the one big piece that they're missing is a quarterback. And obviously, John Elway runs things there, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL history. I think we all can agree on that.
Yes.
But, he's supposed to be a quarterback guru. Obviously, they were able to pick up Peyton Manning a couple years ago, which, looking back, was more of a Band-Aid than a solution. And
they won a Super Bowl.
They did, which is
went out on
the
top.
ultimate goal.
Yeah, right.
But as far as longevity for the franchise with that defense that they have, last year they had Trevor Siemian from Northwestern was their starter for a while. Paxton Lynch came in and started for a while. There was just no solid option at the quarterback position. So if they can scrounge up enough money to sign Kirk Cousins, I think you would absolutely see the Denver Broncos go from last in the AFC West this past season to probably first with a quarterback like Cousins.
And also could be a serious Super Bowl contender.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's exactly
Yes.
what I'm saying. With that defense, and they have a decent running game with C.J. Anderson. You've got Thomas on the outside that can run deep, and again, like I said
You got
earlier,
Emmanuel Sanders.
Cousins can throw that deep ball. You've got Sanders, yeah. So in my opinion, the Denver Broncos are a team that absolutely could use Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, Russell on the other hand.
I would go with Chicago Bears because they finished at the bottom with points. Total yards passing average was like bottom of the league this season. So maybe Chicago Bears will fit them.
Yeah,
Go
Chicago, I mean, they've got Trubisky there, but
Yes.
I mean, I don't think there's any sign that Chicago is going to have a strong quarterback for many years with either of the people in their depth chart right now. So that might not be a bad fit. The first thing I was thinking of was Arizona. The first team that came to mind was Arizona because of the pieces that are there. What about Buffalo? I mean, Tyrod Taylor, he's not a star, and is certainly up in the air there.
Yes.
They got to playoffs this time for the first time in many, many years.
Since '99.
That's right, and you got to think that if they were to put somebody like Kirk Cousins in that role, if Kelvin Benjamin, I would expect, is going to stay on board. If he does, some of the pieces that are there, that might be a good fit. What do you think?
I think the solution where with Kirk Cousins, you're looking at Shady McCoy, and you got Kevin Benjamin on one side. But the thing about with Buffalo was more of what got so successful for them was they ran the ball and played good defense. Look at who the head coach was, Sean McDermott, who came from Carolina, playing our defensive coordinator. We lost to him to Buffalo like a season ago, and look how the success they had. But I look at it now for the pieces of what Kirk Cousins can come to if he's in Buffalo. He might have some good success, but in that time, and you may look at it from a standpoint, they want to win.
Yeah, that's right. And Buffalo did prove this year they could win. Not the pieces aren't there for sure. They're not all there, but he could certainly be a good fit there, folks. We're going to in just a moment. We're going to change our focus to baseball. Pitching coach Scott Emerson is in studio to talk about the Oakland A's upcoming baseball season. Really excited about that. Now you're excited about the interview.
Absolutely.
And he'll be in studio here in just a moment, folks. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to hear from Scott Emerson. A really great interview. That's coming in just a moment. Oakland A's pitching coach. And we're also going to be talking about Super Bowl 52. Got to keep this football conversation going.
Yes.
So much more to talk about. Not only that, Ronda Rousey.
Yeah.
Back in the headlines.
Yeah.
Back in the headlines. And if you don't know what we're talking about, it's not for UFC. Folks, stay with us. We'll be right back right after these messages. Exit Realty Platinum in Rockingham has listed one of the most beautiful homes in Richmond County. Located in Rockingham on Ledbetter Lake, the home features 4 bedrooms with bamboo floors and a kitchen featuring stainless steel appliances and granite countertops, and a master bedroom that overlooks Ledbetter Lake, along with a spacious tile shower and the attached master bathroom. The open living space leads to the back deck with a perfect view of Ledbetter Lake, and the property features its own boat dock. Want to see this beautiful home? Call Nicole Hayden with Exit Realty Platinum, your source for homes in Richmond and Moore counties.
Scott, talk to us a little bit about how you got started in baseball and how you ended up at the highest level, which is, of course, Major League Baseball.
Well, baseball's been my passion since I was 5 years old. I grew up in Maryland, and I was a basketball player. Played a lot of basketball till I was 10. And my dad was in the golf course business, and we were going to move out to Phoenix, Arizona, where my dad was going to run a golf course. And my brother kind of persuaded me by saying, hey, out in Arizona, all the baseball fields got fences. They're like stadiums. So my attention moved when I was 10 more from basketball to baseball. And, I played high school basketball, could have played in college. But baseball was always my passion. And I knew that if I couldn't get to the big leagues as a player, I was going to find a way to get there as a coach. And, my father's always said persistence to purpose leads to success. So I just kept grinding and finally went up the food chain in baseball and finally got to the major leagues as a coach.
Now that you are a pitching coach for the Oakland Athletics, in your opinion, who is the toughest out in Major League Baseball?
I think Trout. Mike Trout, he's just, he's got power, he's got speed. He puts a lot of balls in play. He can run. By what I mean by that is hit balls to the backhand side of the infielders and beat throws out. He puts pressure on you offensively, and he's got a ton of power, and he's patient at the plate. He's not afraid to take his walks. So, there's a lot of other good ones out there, but Trout really sticks out because we see him so much.
And I know Mike Trout gets a lot of respect being the player that he is. Besides non-Oakland Athletics, who's your favorite player in baseball?
Non-Oakland Athletics favorite player. Oh, that's a tough one. I like watching Greinke. I like watching good pitchers. I like Kershaw being left-handed, and I'm left-handed. But Greinke, Kershaw, I love Irvin Santana's delivery. I've watched this guy since A-ball in 2004. I enjoy watching him pitch. I tend to like more pitchers, obviously, than position players. But, the new guys coming up on the offensive side. Altuve's fun to watch, but as long as it's not against us. And Stanton, guys with big-time power, they're always fun to watch.
And talking about a guy that is a positional player and will also be a pitcher, talking about Shohei Ohtani, who, of course, signed with the Los Angeles Angels during the offseason. I'm curious as to what the Oakland Athletics approach is going to be when it comes to facing Ohtani, especially considering the fact that you guys haven't seen him.
Well, actually, I've actually followed this guy since high school. Okay. So for me, it would have been a dream to have this guy on a staff as a pitcher. I think he's going to be one of the best pitchers in the league. He's got top velocity with good breaking balls. He's got the ability to slow the game down. On the offensive side, I haven't really seen much of him, so I'm hoping we can gather enough video to see what we got to do to face him. But I'm very excited to see him and compete against him and have our guys go out there and do what we can do against him.
As far as during a game, what are some of the things that you might say to one of your players when you walk out to the mound?
Well, more times than not, I'm just trying to calm their nerves. Breathe out here. That's the easiest thing to say. The worst thing to say is throw strikes. Obviously, they're doing something generally that is not good, and I have to make a trip. But I do make trips to the mound, even if they're throwing good and they've thrown 24, 25 pitches. I tell the guys, hey, you're going to see me. I'm going to make a trip. I'm going to give you a breather. But mostly it's reinforce them, get back their mind back into a good place, generally a good pitch in a good location, something that they've been doing real good all game. I want them to get back to that pitch at that time and get them back into the present.
As we all know, it's very difficult to get to the level of Major League Baseball, so a lot of people don't really know what it's like to be at that level. So if you would, take us through a day in the life of a player or, like yourself, a coach at the Major League level.
Well, more times than not, we play 7 o'clock games, and I'm at the ballpark at 11. I put in the time with the scouting reports and watching the previous game. Not only do I got 13 pitchers I got to work with, and I got 13 different pitchers, so 13 different personalities. So, some like to watch videos, some don't, some like to talk. So, I want to get there early, provide myself to them because I feel like I'm a resource for them. So I'm there early, but I do my work, getting the scouting reports ready, watching video, as I said, and just trying to better each pitcher each and every day. And the pitchers generally, they get in about 1 o'clock. It might be a lift day for them. They lift early, they lift before the game. It might be a treatment day, a massage day. We have a massage therapist, Ozzy, who does a great job with the players. So, we got a weight room. We got all the things that you need for these guys to be comfortable each and every day. About 3 o'clock, I go outside with the starting pitcher who needs to throw his bullpen that day. 3:45, the rest of the team comes out, and we throw, and we take BP, we go in, we eat, and then 7 o'clock the game starts. So it's a long day. It's a 12-hour day for the coaches, probably 9-hour days for the players.
As I'm sure you know, they're talking about implementing a pitch clock in Major League Baseball, and I wanted to get your opinion on the pitch clock and how you think it will actually speed up the game.
Well, I would like to see the game speed up a little bit, but in my opinion, they've thought about shrinking the strike zone a little bit. That's going to create more offense. That's going to create more time. We do have long commercial breaks in between. That creates more time. I think personally a 7-inning game would be good. but nobody would want to do it, in my opinion, because of the record books. And that's not why we should be playing baseball. We should be playing for the competition of the win and the loss. But these record books have kind of made us want to play 162 and play 9-inning games rather than 156 games or maybe 7-inning games. But I'll preach to the same thing I've always told every pitcher I've ever had. Put the rosin bag close to the rubber, get the ball, go as fast as you can, keep the infielders on your toes. And those are the things that I'll continue to preach. There's a thought for me, maybe keeping the catchers in the catcher's box and having the pitchers actually have to throw the ball, the put-away pitch, a little bit closer. That could be hit, could be more balls in play. I think these catchers get way outside the box, and we just throw a big waste pitch all the time, and then we go move on to the next pitch. So, the pace of play can get slow, but I think there's a lot of combinations of things that they can do to improve the pace of play.
I also know that one of the reasons that they had talked about implementing the pitch clock was to maybe deter stealing signs. Is that a legitimate problem in Major League Baseball?
Well, I mean, sign stealing's been around forever. Change your signs. That's what I say. I think if you're using technology to steal signs, which is illegal, then that's wrong. But if you're just using your eyes and you're relaying signs, then that's one thing. We have a system that we use a number system, we use a tap system, we use all sorts of systems. So if you want to waste your time and try to pick up signs, that's go ahead on you. And then that's our problem to mix it up and change it. If we're not changing signs, you look at a Major League Baseball game and most pitchers go second sign or outs +1 or chase the 2. Everybody knows that. So the runner on second base knows that. So come up with some innovative stuff and let's move on.
You and I were talking earlier about Fan Fest that you guys had in Oakland a few days ago. I know you just got back from that. So talk to us a little bit about what exactly Fan Fest is.
Well, Fan Fest is a great opportunity for the players, the coaches, and our front office to interact with the fans. And whether it be autograph session or I went to a bowling alley for 2 hours and just mingled with the people and ate some food and talked to the season ticket holders. I did an autograph session with Marcus Semien, who's from Oakland. So not everybody wanted my autograph, but they surely wanted his. And then I did a Q&A with Kendall Graveman, one of our pitchers. So, they had a great crowd in Jack London Square, and we just got to interact and mingle with all the fans and get everybody excited for the upcoming season.
With spring training fastly approaching, is there anything that you're going to be working on with your guys specifically or in general during spring training this year?
Well, I think the confidence factor has to show up. We have to know that we belong on the field. We have to know that we're major league players, we're a major league team, and that we are what we believe we are. And the attitude I'm trying to create and the atmosphere I'm trying to create for our guys is, hey, we're a World Series championship team. Let's act like one. Let's go out there every day, be professional, and do the things that we're supposed to do to get ourselves to the ultimate goal, and that's win that World Series.
With that being said, what do you foresee for the Oakland Athletics this season?
Well, I'd like to see us go 162-0, obviously. So we'll take one day at a time. That's kind of the motto, too, one pitch at a time, one day at a time. We'll go out there and compete. And that's ultimately what we ask of our guys is compete to the fullest, and whatever happens, happens. But we got to go out there and compete.
And finally, Scott, when will you actually be heading down to Arizona for the Cactus League this year?
I'm going next Tuesday, so we're going to be missing the dog and the wife, but I'm excited. My family lives out in Phoenix, so I get to spend some time with them, and baseball is what I do, so I'm excited for the season.
McNair Auto Sales is the place to buy your pre-owned car, truck, or van. To be the best, it takes big selection, friendly staff, and great pricing. We guarantee a no-hassle buying experience, and financing is available right on site. So come see us today. We're located at 1026 East Broad Avenue in Rockingham. And remember, with over 40 years of experience, McNair is the name you can trust.
And welcome back to the RO Sports Show, brought to you tonight by First Health of the Carolinas. Great interview with Scott. He's a great guy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We appreciate him doing that too.
Yes, we do.
I'll tell you, wish him much success as pitching coach with Oakland A's in the 2018 season. I'd love to see the A's just get the playoffs and go crazy.
I would too. And as I said earlier, I'm an Atlanta Braves fan,
Yeah.
but with Scott being out in Oakland, that has to be, if not my second favorite team, at least my favorite AL team.
Yeah, I just told my wife the other day. I said, I just met the pitching coach at Oakland A's.
Yeah.
I said, and I know I'm an Orioles fan, but I swear I'm gonna pull for Oakland all the rest of the time. Now, if Oakland plays the Orioles, I'm gonna tell you the truth. I'm gonna have a hard time. But nonetheless, we appreciate him coming in studio. Let's focus on Super Bowl 52, which is just days away now. Eagles and Patriots. Everyone expected the Patriots to get there, and a lot of people are saying that this was the easiest path of any team ever to the Super Bowl. They, of course, played Tennessee and then Jacksonville in their 2 games. And they're talk about 2 teams that we aren't used to being in the playoffs.
Right.
Yes.
But they made it. They did great. Patriots, though, they're in the Super Bowl representing the AFC, and they're doing so against the Eagles. And the Eagles have had a tremendous season, but every game so far in the playoffs, including this one, they're being seen as the underdog. Are you buying that they are the underdog still to the Patriots?
I would think so. It's hard for anyone to consider the Patriots being the underdog.
Yeah.
So I would suggest that Eagles are definitely underdogs when it comes to this one.
I think that even if Carson Wentz was starting, the Eagles would still be an underdog, just because, like you said, it's the Patriots. They are made for this stage, it seems like, because Brady and Belichick have been there so many times. This is their moment. So there's no doubt in my mind that the Eagles, even with Carson Wentz, would still be the underdogs in the Super Bowl.
I believe they are the underdogs in this game because we're looking at it from a standpoint. We're looking at Nick Foles and we're looking at the Philadelphia Eagles, and we're looking at a team that goes to the Super Bowl pretty much every other year, and it's not they are used to this kind of stage. So I always say, better team wins.
Well, and of course, the Patriots are expected to win this game.
Right.
But do the Patriots win this game? I mean, they are going up against a tough Eagles team. Last year, they were going up against a tough Falcons team. Falcons had the thing in the bag.
Yes.
And then the Patriots do what the Patriots do. And it's hard to ignore that they can really do that anytime they want. Didn't they do that against Jacksonville?
Yes.
I mean, the Jacksonville led the whole game.
Yes.
And then next thing we know, Tom Brady does what Tom Brady does. And so do the Eagles stand a chance?
I believe the Eagles with their defense. I always tell people all the time, if you can put pressure on Tom Brady, expect for Tom Brady to have a bad game. But if you get that man a whole time in the pocket, he's going to do what Tom Brady does. He going to kill you with these little screen passes to Elvin Mendola or even your running backs with Deion Lewis or James White.
And for a minute, I thought you just said screen passes to Ellerby, and I was thinking, okay,
If that happens, then the Eagles are going to be
I
a
don't
good
think that's going to
business.
work out real well. So what do you think? I mean, do you think they stand a chance?
I believe Philadelphia do stand a chance. If Nick Foles bring his A game, and then the running game with Jamin Jala they picked up from Miami Dolphins, and LeGarrette Blount, who's no stranger to the New England Patriots, who got traded during the offseason. Even with the receivers they had with Shanshan Jeffrey and Torrey Smith and Zach Ertz from the tight end position, I believe they'll be successful.
Mm-hmm. We'll see.
I would like to see the Eagles win because I'm having Patriots fatigue. Do I think the Eagles are going to win? Absolutely not. Anything can happen in the Super Bowl, obviously. If I was betting on it, I would absolutely take the New England Patriots in this game, simply for what I said earlier. This is what they do. To them, this is almost like a regular season game. You know how the Patriots do business. They take it one game at a time. They're not worried about next week's game until they get to that point. Obviously, this is the last game of the season. But I have no doubt in my mind, and again, I hope I'm wrong, but I have no doubt in my mind that the New England Patriots are probably going to win this by at least a touchdown. I'm gonna go that far with it.
All right,
Yeah.
so that was my next thing, predictions. You're picking the New England Patriots.
Picking the Patriots, and I'll even go, let's see, Patriots 24, Eagles 17.
Oh, wow. Russell.
I think it'll be a close game for sure. It's hard for me to go against the Patriots. Now, I hate the Patriots to the bone. I just absolutely hate them. I used to be a former Carolina Panthers fan, and I remember that game back then, but I think Patriots are going to probably win it by 2 touchdowns.
Well, let me ask you this while we're on this. Jeremy, hold on just a second. Why do you hate the Patriots?
Back in the day, whenever they beat Panthers for the championship, or
I
Super
was
Bowl,
gonna
yeah.
say, don't give me this stuff about them being the top dog. I was about to call the Crimson Tide.
The Patriots are essentially the Alabama of the NFL.
I
That's
know,
the way I look at them.
that's why I can't figure out how you don't like them.
That's exactly what I was going to say is I have Patriots fatigue. I also have Crimson Tide fatigue.
Phew,
so-
I'm with you there.
You'll have fatigue for a while, I'd say that.
So we'll talk about that in a bit. Jeremy, who you got winning this game?
This is my prediction here. I hate the Patriots with a passion. I really do, because I tell anybody all the time, I don't care who wins the Super Bowl, as long as it ain't New England or it's Dallas. But I'm going for the Philadelphia Eagles. I think that's their time to shine. They did a awesomest job this year. My prediction will be 28-21, and Nick Foles will be Super Bowl MVP. Good luck, my classmate Donnell Ellaby, from all the way from Hamlet, North Carolina. Do your thing, big man.
Darnell Ellaby in the Super Bowl. It's really neat to have somebody from Richmond County in the Super Bowl.
Once again.
Yes. Yeah. But I'm going to tell you something, okay? I'm not betting against New England. Now, I hope the Eagles get it done. My heart says I want to see the Eagles get it done, okay? Sierra McQueen, my co-host on Good Morning Sandhills, she is a big Eagles fan. Really want this for you, Sierra. But in the words of Lee Corso, not so fast, my friend. It ain't happening. No way. I got the Patriots winning 35-24.
Okay.
Not that close. That is this defense that the Eagles has gonna have a tough time with the Patriots. Gronk in or out, doesn't matter. Brady always finds a way.
Wow, and I thought
right.
I was being liberal with my prediction, but you guys went even further with it. And we may come back next week, and Jeremy looked like the genius of the group.
Yeah.
But it's like you said,
It's gonna be one way or the other.
it's one way or the
Yes.
other. But I think that the smart money is on the Patriots to win Super Bowl 52.
That's right, and it would make them 2 times in a row
Yeah.
against 2 really good teams.
And also be the only team in Super Bowl history to win more Super Bowls than any other franchise.
Would this be? Yeah, I was going to say, how many would this be for the?
Because this would be, they've been there 7 times, so you're looking at, it'll be the 5th ring if Tom Brady wins on Sunday.
Is that right?
Oh, actually, it'll be the 6th ring.
6th ring.
for Brady.
6th ring
Brady,
for Brady.
yes.
Yeah.
And
That'd be the most for a single player. Wouldn't it?
Yes.
here's a crazy stat for you. Tom Brady is one of only 2 players to win 5 Super Bowls, and is the only player to win them all playing for one team.
Yes.
Wow.
So he can just take that record even further if they're successful on Sunday.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, I wasn't planning on talking about this, but let's go ahead and talk about it. You guys, yesterday morning on Good Morning Sandhills, were talking about greatest of all time. Who is it? And Michael Jordan came up, obviously, but Tom Brady came up too. Should Tom Brady be considered as the greatest of all time in his respective sport?
Yes, sir.
Certainly.
Yes, sir.
The greatest of all time. We're talking about
Yes.
the greatest of all time now. This is a big deal. Tom Brady's your pick.
Well, Tom Brady, I'm not a big fan of him, but just for the record stats, everything he has done since 2000, 6th-round pick out of University of Michigan. We look at a guy who just an underachiever, replaced Drew Bledsoe, because I remember that when that happened. Nobody knew who this guy was until during that time, from 2000 all the way to the present. He has shown time after time after time again that he is the greatest of all time in his respective sport and the position of quarterback.
Yeah, well, it's hard to argue.
Well, it is hard to argue. And one thing that I talked about on the show yesterday was Tom Brady's got all these accolades. Obviously, if he wins on Sunday, that'll be 6 Super Bowls for him.
Yes.
Here's the difference, though. Michael Jordan has 6 NBA Final Championships.
Yes.
That's 6 out of 6, though. He's
Whoa.
been to 6 finals. He's won 6 championships. Matter of fact, we had somebody participate on a Facebook post that told us that he's never even played a Game 7 in the finals. That's
I
how
did not
dominant
realize
Michael
that.
Jordan has
Yeah.
been. To me, that's the difference maker, is that obviously Brady's had a great career. He's been to a ton of Super Bowls. He's also lost a couple Super Bowls.
Yes.
And I think that's also been the knock if you bring up LeBron James as far as basketball. Because there's a lot of people that would say LeBron James is the greatest basketball player of all time. But then you make the argument of, he's played in, 7 or 8 straight finals, but he's also only won 3 or 4.
Three championships.
Exactly. Whereas Michael Jordan went 6 for 6. And to me, that's just a tough argument to overcome.
Yeah, now, Russell, I'm guessing you're thinking that Nick Saban's the greatest of all time. Is that right?
Certainly in college football, but I don't think when you look, if you put him in NFL, I don't think he's going to do that great. Likewise,
He didn't.
Likewise, I don't think Belichick would do good in college football either, because they're just 2 different.
I
formulas.
figured he'd say Jimmy Johnson.
Oh. Well, I will say that, but Tom Brady and Michael Jordan are certainly.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not talking out of the
No,
spectrum
no.
here.
And it's really splitting hairs if you think about it. Another thing that Sierra and I brought up was when you're talking about greatest athletes across all sports, you know, you talk about Brady, you talk about Michael Jordan, LeBron James is in that category. A couple other names I brought up. One is Muhammad Ali, great athlete, obviously, in the sport of boxing. Another was Jim Brown, who obviously played for the Browns when they were a good team, before our time, but still, this is a guy that was just an athlete. There's no other way to put it. He was in track and field, shot put, all these Olympic sports. He was an Olympic champion, football player, actor in Hollywood, just across the board. So, you know, when it comes to Brady and Michael Jordan, that's probably the top 2-tier guys, but there's also some other guys in different sports you can bring up with this argument.
All right, well, since we've touched almost every sport except baseball, I want to ask you who you think the greatest of all time is in baseball. I mean, it may seem obvious, but may not.
Babe Ruth.
Yeah, and that's usually what people say, and I would probably lean that way. In my opinion, the difference in baseball with other sports is, first of all, baseball has been around for forever and a day. Since it's been around so long, there's different eras in baseball.
Yes.
So you can make a case that Ty Cobb was the best player of all time in the late 1800s, early 1900s. You can make a case that Babe Ruth is the best of all time. When it's all said and done, we may say Mike Trout in present day is the greatest of all time, or somebody else is playing. You know, so to me, it's probably Babe Ruth, but you can make a lot of cases for a lot more players in the sport of baseball.
Yeah.
You know, before we go to break, Babe Ruth, the only reason I would personally consider him as the greatest of all time is because he was born in Baltimore. But because he didn't play for Baltimore, we can't consider him for that honor. But Cal Ripken Jr., of course. I mean, if you didn't play for the Orioles, you can't be considered for the greatest of all time, right? No,
So Manny Machado's in there too, right?
Yeah, I mean, who else we got on the team? Yeah, we can consider them too. No, big fan of the Orioles, but not the case. Probably Babe Ruth, and certainly you made a good point though. There are a lot of errors in baseball, and you have to take that in consideration. I mean, there's a time where guys pitched a lot more than they do now. There's a time where things were just a lot different, and it's probably more strenuous now in some cases than it was back in the day, and vice versa. So nonetheless, folks, we have so much more to talk about coming up right after this. We promised to tell you about Altman Griffin and where she's headed to play college volleyball, and next up on the docket, Ronda Rousey. Can't wait to talk about her. And like we said earlier, she's making headlines, but not in the UFC. Stay with us. We'll be right back right after these messages. Family Pharmacy is a local pharmacy that's been in business in Rockingham for over 10 years. Located in the Food Lion Shopping Center on US 1 North, we have easy access into the store and a drive-thru for your convenience as well. You can download the official Family Pharmacy app at myfamilypharmacy.com, and we'll help you set it up to text you when your prescription is ready, and you can even set it up to fill your prescriptions when due. Our motto is we'll treat you like family, and it's something we truly mean. We take the same care in filling your prescription that we would take for our own family. Family Pharmacy, we'll treat you like family. And welcome back to the RO Sports Show, brought to you tonight by First Health of the Carolinas. We certainly appreciate what they do for the community. They have a strong presence in this community, and they do a lot for the Sand Hills region in providing wonderful health care that may otherwise not be available to the people in this area. Thank you, First Health of the Carolinas, for your sponsorship of the RO Sports Show. And of course, we've got a panel of just some great people here. I think we're going to have some good times with this show. I'll tell you that every Thursday night, 5:30, right here on the Classic Rock, and also on RichmondObserver.com, the Richmond Observer app, Facebook, and the YouTube channel. You can watch it. There's tons of ways to watch these guys. I mean, look at them. I mean, we some good-looking people, right? I mean, all right, so let's talk about Ronda Rousey. All right?
Yes.
Ronda Rousey. I mean, UFC star and of course, the last two fights hadn't been the most stellar moments of her career, but she dominated the women's division in UFC for a long time. And of course, in your column, Matter of Opinion, on RichmondObserver.com yesterday, you talked about the Royal Rumble and how Ronda Rousey is now going to be a full-time WWE superstar. I mean, how big is that for the sport?
It's huge. And that's one of the things I talked about is this is one of those athletes, and we can legitimately call her an athlete, that is moving from MMA, from UFC, to WWE, and brings along with that all the people that followed her in that sport that wouldn't necessarily watch professional wrestling. So now they're going to be interested. They're going to start viewing not only the shows that she's in, but shows that she's necessarily not in, to follow the storylines that go along with it on the road to WrestleMania, which this time of the year with the Royal Rumble starting this past Sunday is basically WWE's biggest time of the year.
Oh yeah, this is when I
Yes.
get back into it. You know,
Yes,
I was
sir.
one of the old school wrestling fans.
Yes,
you know,
I
one
am
of them-
too.
Yeah, I mean, I used to watch it religiously. I mean, Monday Night Raw came on, and I was there, and my mother couldn't have known what kind of content was on back then. Because now it's a lot more family friendly, but back in the late '90s, I mean, it was some serious stuff up there.
Yeah.
I mean, not something a fifth grader should be watching for sure. you know.
No, because during my time, I used to love watching wrestling from WCW to ECW.
WCW.
Monday
yeah.
Night Nitro, because you had at that time, this is a favorite memory of me. You used to look at back in that time, WCW Monday Night Nitro with Ted Turner with TNT coming at 8 o'clock.
That's right.
Raw is War on WWF at the time will come at 9.
That's
So
right.
it was pretty much the battle of the two top companies for ratings at that time. Like, what we're going to watch that particular Monday night. We're going to watch Monday Night Nitro or we're going to watch Raw is War. And during that time frame, my favorite era was the Attitude Era. I loved it from Mick Foley to The Undertaker, Kane, D-Generation X to The Rock. And during that time, people love into wrestling during that time. But just saying with the Ronda Rousey signing and coming to the WWE from UFC, I think that's going to be huge for the WWE. Not only she going to pretty much dominate the women's division.
Well, and that's who's she going to fight at WrestleMania? Because that's obviously going to be her first big match. I mean,
Yes.
she may wrestle beforehand. I don't know, but she's definitely going to wrestle at WrestleMania. Who does she fight?
Well, I know that there's recently announced on Monday Night Raw that they're going to have a women's elimination chamber match for the Raw pay-per-view. So maybe she might enter in that. I'm not quite sure if she will, but maybe she will do that and win that. And it's for the for the Raw Women's Championship. So maybe she'll win it then, and then go on to WrestleMania and fight Asuka.
Yeah, because for absolute certain, she's going to walk away from WrestleMania with the title, right? There's no way she doesn't.
You would like to think so, but right now, and Russell, correct me if I'm wrong, but Charlotte Flair is one of your champions, right? And,
Yeah.
SmackDown Women's Champion.
Yeah.
and then
SmackDown.
the other for Raw is Alexa Bliss,
yep.
right?
Yes.
So after the Royal Rumble, when I mentioned this in my column, Ronda Rousey came down, and this was after the show. So this was after the main event, which I also thought was impressive that the women main evented Royal
It was
Rumble.
neat.
That was
First
a-
time
that was a
ever
great
that
match.
type of
Yeah,
thing.
that was
Yeah.
good.
But Ronda Rousey came down and pointed to the WrestleMania sign, which is always a big deal because that shows your intentions. And then she tried to shake hands with Asuka, who obviously doesn't have a belt right now. So will one of those two end up with the belt at Elimination Chamber and then fight for it at WrestleMania? We have yet to see. But that's why they call it the Road to WrestleMania.
Yeah,
That's
so
right.
While we're on wrestling, I mean, we can't not have this conversation on this first edition of the RO Sports Show. Who are your top guys? Who are your Mount Rushmore, if you will, of professional wrestlers? I want you to give me your top 4 pro wrestlers of all time. Who wants to get this started? You want me to? Y'all want to do it?
Go ahead.
Okay, all right. Because I'm prepared.
I wanna see
I
what you
came
say.
prepared. Let me tell you. All right, first and foremost, we are in North Carolina, okay? So it is hard to ignore, in no particular order. These are just my 4, okay? It is hard to ignore the limousine riding, jet flying, kiss stealing, wheeling and dealing, Rolex wearing, you name it, he's a man. Woo, the Nature Boy. He's got to be on that list, right?
Yes.
I mean, the Nature Boy, that's my opinion. Ric Flair's on the list, all right? You can't ignore, look, he's not the greatest wrestler of all time, but one of the greatest personality of all time, most likely, has got to be Hulk Hogan. Now, a lot of people don't like Hulk Hogan. As far as wrestling talent, not the best one, okay? But I'm talking about personality. It's just how my list is. You do yours like you want. I got Hulk Hogan on the list because he is absolutely the most well-known of all time. No doubt about it. There's a reason for that. And it's because his character was so strong and built in the 80s. I mean, he brought, let's be honest, him and Vince brought wrestling to where it is today.
Sure.
In the 80s. So I got Hogan and Flair, no doubt. Undertaker. Now, Undertaker's my personal favorite wrestler. You talk about a guy that's got the respect of the locker room. Nobody has the respect of the locker room like the Undertaker has. And it's crazy because his persona on TV is just, he wouldn't be one that's a big talker for sure. But he has the respect of the locker room. Everybody loves him back there. When the Undertaker says something, it's a big deal.
And I don't want to interrupt you, but quite
Yeah.
possibly could have one of the greatest walk-in entrances as well.
Probably the greatest.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
there's nothing more that demands more respect. I mean, people go nuts
Yes.
when he comes out.
And also holds records for the most WrestleMania wins of all time.
That's
And the
right.
longest
streak. Yeah.
That's right. And the longest streak, which
Yes.
came to a sad end.
Yeah.
Not long. I was in San Francisco when this happened. Matter of fact, I kid you not. I know we had Scott Emerson in earlier today. I had just left the A's game. It was a Sunday afternoon game. Okay, and WrestleMania 30 came on that night. I was getting ready for a dinner I had to go to, and I was ironing my clothes when the Undertaker got pinned. I'll never forget it.
I remember where I was at too.
I was like, I can't. I mean, I remember where I was. You know, what I mean,
do too.
that was like
Yeah.
an iconic moment in
Yeah.
life. But Undertaker's got to be on that list. And if I had to look at a guy in modern history, even more so than the Undertaker, that I think has truly defined. Now, I could talk about wrestling talent all day, okay, folks, but I'm talking about personas. Nobody did it quite like The Rock. The Rock was, not only was he talented, and he was a character that was globally known. The Rock would be on my Mount Rushmore. Now, I've left out a lot of guys. Andre, I've left out a lot of great wrestling talent too. They'd be my 4 guys. Jeremy?
Well, my Mount Rushmore 4 guys, which we look at the number 1 guy. He's from my area, Elby, North Carolina. Is Andre the Giant.
I can go with that.
Because you're looking at a guy that pretty much one of the largest and heaviest wrestlers of all time. Even though he, God rest his soul, but a guy that solidified and paved the way for much heavier wrestlers like The Big Show or Humonga and those guys who came, and Yokozuna, who came world champions.
That's right. Yeah.
And a guy who, I wasn't even probably about a baby when that happened, when Hulk Hogan body slammed Andre the Giant.
WrestleMania 3.
That's
Yeah.
right. A big moment. Probably the most iconic moment
yes,
in wrestling history.
and at the same time. Now, coming number 2, my number 2 will be The Rock. A guy that I followed most of his career, with 10 championship wins, who is also iconic, who is known for not only in the WWE but also known in the Hollywood arena as an actor, who pretty much elevated his game to wrestling to not only style of wrestling from the rock bottoms and the people's elbows, but his voice.
That's right.
His
You want
voice.
to give us a rendition? I didn't know if you were feeling it. Okay, that's all right. You ain't got to.
No, his voice. We hear from the many sayings. Finally, The Rock has come back to whatever it was that he was at.
Yeah.
Do you smell what The Rock is cooking? Do you pretty much the pie eating, brony beating, eyebrow raising, treble raising?
That's right.
Not gonna go into the other parts, but that's
Yeah, I
okay.
was gonna say we might
But
need to keep it sensitive.
yeah, but a guy that has full respect of the business, a 3rd generation superstar, from his grandfather to his daddy, which we're gonna look at in the next 5 years. He's gonna be a Hall of Famer. He's gonna
no doubt. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a Hall of Famer in my book. The 3rd guy that I look into is The Undertaker. A guy who pretty much came in the scene as a young man with a dark suit on, with two ravens in the back, coming down the ring in WrestleMania, facing Jimmy Superfly Sucker for his world.
That is right. That was his
first world title. And also, but we look at a guy who pretty much, like you said, got full respect of the locker room, and a true veteran of the game. Have most WrestleMania wins of all time. I remember when Brock Lesnar pinned him, that was the most iconic moment, which it made headlines not only in the WWE but Sports Center and other areas. But to this day, for every WrestleMania every year, it would never be a WrestleMania without The Undertaker. And I was looking forward to see if he's going to fight John Cena.
Well, I will say, very odd that the Undertaker was not the first inductee this year in the Hall of Fame. For certain, that signals that he will not be inducted into the Hall of Fame this year. You got to wonder if that's a sign that he'll be at WrestleMania.
Yeah, there are some rumblings out there that he's going to fight somebody.
Yeah. Who's your 4th guy?
My 4th guy is, a lot of people kind of don't get the credit that he deserves, is Bret the Hitman Hart.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's a great technical wrestler.
One of the great technical wrestlers of all time. Also, the epitome of the sharpshooter.
That's right.
And many of y'all know back in '96, him and Shawn Michaels, known as the Montreal Screwed Up Job.
Yeah, 97. But yes, that happened. Yeah, that Survivor Series.
Yeah, happened Survivor Series, and during that time, fight for the world title, which many people was saying that Bret Hart supposed to have retained that title that night, but made headlines with Vince McMahon kind of screwed Bret the Hitman Hart during that time, which that made Shawn Michaels world champion, which that kind of was a feud that a real life feud went on for a long period of time.
Yeah.
Which they buried the hatchet maybe about a few years ago behind that. But Bret the Hitman Hart, he's one of the most professional guys of all time, which to me personally don't get the credit that he deserved, because if you look at the guys during his era, he was overshadowed by so many people. But at that time, he always, his record speaks for himself.
Well, Eric Bischoff gave him an opportunity to come to WCW,
Yes,
and never really was as strong as he was in WWF
WWF.
at
Yes,
the time.
yeah.
So, Russell, who's your Mount Rushmore of pro wrestlers?
Well, I think my George Washington of the Mount Rushmore will be The Undertaker.
Yeah.
He has just been. I grew up in the kind of the late into the Attitude Era, started the Ruthless Aggression era. So I remember Undertaker through all of that time, and he's just always been like a huge influence on me. He has a lot of people. Everybody respects Undertaker. Just a veteran. Honestly, I don't know how he was able to take that spear from Roman Reigns at last year's WrestleMania and lose that.
Yeah, well, he's an older guy now.
He is,
I don't know how
but
you do
Yeah,
it.
he's about
it's
close to
amazing.
50.
It's amazing what he's able to still do at his age and still compete in these high caliber matches. And I have a lot of respect for him on that. My second persona would be Shawn Michaels, the showstopper.
Yeah, I'm surprised that that's the first time. Even with me, I'm thinking all these guys. I'm like, wow, I left all these guys like Shawn Michaels.
And he and Undertaker had, I would say, the two best WrestleMania matches ever. They both competed in a WrestleMania match. Their first one was probably my favorite of all time.
WrestleMania 25.
Yes.
That may very well be the greatest match of all time.
Oh yes.
Yes.
My third person will probably be. I'm gonna go with Triple H on that one, just because of what he's been able to do, not only with like DX, but also what he's able to do now these days with WWE. What he's done in NXT has created that program, so I think that's huge. Something that he should be commended for. And my fourth person, which is actually going to be a female here, and it's actually going to be Trish Stratus. Who
Yes.
Yeah, see, we're a
Certainly-
bunch of sexists sitting up here. We're just now hearing a woman's name. Yeah, she certainly dominated the women's.
Yeah.
And she has elevated she has trailblazed what is now known as the women's division, because it used to be the Divas division back then. Now it's the women's the and a lot of credit goes to the women today, but Trish Stratus certainly trailblazed that. Her and Lita main event Raw. That was one of the greatest women's matches right there.
Oh yeah,
And also had the most wins for a women's champion
I
with
did not
7.
realize that. Yeah,
most
Trish
I
wins.
think
Stratus.
the only one next to her will be Mickey James.
I figured yours might be different, but you definitely brought some names. And the reason is because you grew up in a different era. But yeah, I mean, there's certainly some names there that
I was very much considering John Cena on that one. I think he would be a close favorite. The
John
reason
Cena.
why is because of how
Honorable
much he's
mention.
done for the
I'm just-
business. Not just because of everybody else say he always wins all the time. He's never going to lose, but he has done a lot for the business outside of it. I think he's the top number one request on Make-A-Wish.
Yeah.
So,
And that is true. Yeah, he has done a lot. Yeah, talk about John Cena before you go, Matt. John, I mean, I talk like we're best friends. Old John. Yeah, he's good. No, I'll tell you, John Cena is a kind of guy I started to appreciate more as time progresses, because now I don't know who all these people are. So I'm like, well, I know John Cena, so I like him still. But it was a long time I wasn't buying that persona.
I was never a fan of him back when I was growing up.
No. But no doubt, still really talented. Still has some great matches. I think last year his match with AJ Styles at the Royal Rumble was probably the best of the year.
Yes.
But Matt, what about you?
Well, it's funny you guys brought that up, because I actually have John Cena on my list.
Yeah.
Yes.
And one of the main reasons why is through the Ruthless Aggression era up
Yes.
until to this day, he is probably the most popular wrestler in the game. I know that Vince still pushes him and Roman Reigns. Plus, let's not forget that John Cena is actually tied with Ric Flair for the most championships won.
16. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And he could still break that record. He's still got plenty of years
Absolutely.
left.
Yeah,
Plenty of
anytime if he
years.
wants to.
Plenty of years, just a matter of whether they want to push that or not. In no particular order, I also have Hulk Hogan on my
Yes.
list, pioneer of the game, like you mentioned earlier. A guy that, talking about trailblazers, he and guys like Macho Man Randy Savage,
Oh, yeah.
those guys that introduced the sport of professional wrestling to America, to across the country. My third guy is The Rock. You may remember, Lance, I called in last week, I guess, on Good Morning Sand Hills and told you a story about how when I was in high school for Spirit Week, we had the opportunity to dress up as a celebrity, and I took that opportunity to dress up as The Rock. I had a cardboard cutout title, had the sideburns, the whole get-up, the sunglasses. That was always my guy back in the Attitude Era, and even up until this day, I love The Rock. I watch as many of his movies as I possibly can. Great charisma, great on the mic, 5-tool athlete when it comes to professional wrestling. And you guys are going to be mad at me a little bit because I don't have The Undertaker on my list and I don't have Ric Flair on my list, even though
I can't decide which
I
one
am
I'm
from
more
North
mad
Carolina.
about.
My fourth guy, though, is somebody that no one's mentioned, and I can't believe it, is Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Oh,
I was wondering if anybody.
That would be my fourth guy because he and The Rock, in my opinion, made WWE what it is today.
Yes.
Those guys had several WrestleMania matches and grudge matches after that just absolutely elevated the entire business. And to me, I was never a huge Stone Cold fan because at that time you had to pick. You were with The Rock or you were with Stone Cold, and obviously I was with The Rock. But there's no denying that he was absolutely integral in building the sport up to what it is today. So that's my Mount Rushmore.
There you go. We could go on all night about pro wrestling. Clearly, I don't think we even scratched the surface. We'll be back about that next week. Maybe next week I'll tell you guys about the time, this is no lie, I took a flying headbutt from the top rope. I'll have to tell you about that next week, I promise. Yeah, folks, stay with us. We'll be right back for more. We're going to talk about Altman Griffin when we come back. She's next up on the docket. Local athlete, hadn't been playing volleyball long, but she's headed to play college volleyball, and we'll be talking about that when we return right after these messages. You're listening to the RO Sports Show right here on the Classic Rock.
Willow Tree Antiques and Gifts is all about rustic home decor and gifts. You will always find a variety of unique antiques, vintage, and new items in our shop. Come and see our selection of housewarming, new baby, and wedding gifts. For the man in your life, we have many collectibles, Boker knives, and leather. And ladies love the jewelry, purses, candles, hats, and t-shirts. We also offer a 30-day layaway program. Come and experience shopping at Willow Tree Antiques and Gifts.
And welcome back to the RO Sports Show, brought to you tonight by First Health of the Carolinas. Let's talk about Altman Griffin. Altman is big news, actually, and Kyle Pillar's done a feature interview with her today on RichmondObserver.com. Altman is going to be playing college volleyball after really a short high school career, but a dominating one. She is going to be playing college volleyball at UNCW for the Seahawks. That's a big deal.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
a big deal. I mean, not
Very big deal.
Yeah, not to have joined the sport until recently, and then to get a college deal. I mean, that's not something that happens every day.
And I don't know if people realize, but you have to be an athlete to play volleyball. I mean, it takes
That's
a lot
right.
of determination, and I know very well that you have to be in good shape because I couldn't do it.
That's what
No,
we
I couldn't either.
Of course, I'm not in the shape I used to be, that's for sure. Yeah, actually, Kenny Melvin, my partner for the Richmond Observer, I asked him the other day, I said, why don't I ever see you wearing T-shirts, talking about being out of shape? And he said, well, I'll be honest with you, I don't really like the way it makes me look. I said, oh, okay. He said, it makes me look kind of fat. And then he looked at me. He said, but I can clearly see that don't bother you too much. I was like, well, okay then. I see where you stand. But nonetheless, yeah, you do got to be in shape. You got to be in shape. And not just that, but any sport. And talking about people who have come out of Richmond County, Altman's heading to UNCW, no telling what her career will end up being. We talk about people that have come out of Richmond County. You got Darnell Ellerby. He's in the Super Bowl this week.
Yes.
I mean, who's some other guys that have come out of the county that have made it?
Tyrone Crowley from playing Clemson, won national championship down there.
Big deal. Yep, of course. Went to the college football playoff this year too.
Beat
So,
my
I mean,
team last year, but I mean,
that's right. But y'all got them this
because
year.
a Raider had beat them. That's why.
That's true.
And we also have Melvin Ingram from the San Diego / LA Chargers, just made the Pro Bowl this year.
That's right. Yep.
And was 3rd, 4th in the league in sacks.
Yep. That's some two great football
yeah.
stars, including Ellerby.
And from the baseball side of it, a guy that's been out of the major leagues for quite a while now, but some people may remember him around here. His name's Brian Moeller. He was a starting pitcher, came up with the Detroit Tigers, played for a few other teams later on in his career. But two things that I remember specifically about him. One was I was lucky enough to watch a game that he pitched in against Greg Maddux for the Braves, which at that time Greg Maddux was one of the best to do it. and actually beat Maddox that day, which was a feat unto itself. And also a quick little tidbit about Brian. He was the last pitcher to pitch in the old Tiger Stadium. So he pitched the last game that they played in, which I think is pretty cool. So
I never knew that.
Real
Right here from
nice,
Richmond
real
So
nice.
some great folks that come out of Richmond County in athletics, and of course, Altman Griffin, we wish you the very best at UNCW and your volleyball career as it continues. Folks, we'll take a quick commercial break. We're going to wrap up the show today, continuing our talk about wrestling. I mean, ever since we started talking about our Mount Rushmore, I mean, Scott was in studio earlier. Scott Emerson, of course, the pitching coach for the Oakland A's. He was talking to you. I was like, this guy clearly knows what he's talking about in baseball. But I mean, we're trying to record the show, and I hear him in there. He's talking about Undertaker, Mankind. He's talking about all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, this guy knows wrestling. We got to get him back on air.
Yes.
So, folks, in just a moment, pitching coach for Oakland A's, Scott Emerson, is going to be back in studio. He's going to be talking about pro wrestling. I don't know if he's ever been on the air and talked about this, but he's going to do it coming up right after these messages.
With hospice, you guys just outdo yourselves every day. And I really appreciate it. I honest to God don't know what I would do if it weren't for you. The things that you do, I'm in approval of. And thank you. I don't know what else to say other than thank you.
And welcome back to the RO Sports Show presented by First Health of the Carolinas. And as Lance alluded to a minute ago, we're back with Scott Emerson, the Oakland A's pitching coach. He's here now to talk about some professional wrestling. So, Scott, we heard you talking earlier about the Mankind and Undertaker match at King of the Ring. So just give us your opinion on that, why you think it's one of the best matches of all time.
Well, any time a guy goes up into the top of the Hell in the Cell and you throw him down 24 feet into the press box and you separate your shoulders and the real doctors come in and they don't want you to continue, and this guy knows that this is entertainment, and he gets back into the ring and climbs back up to the top and lets the Undertaker throw him through the fence. I mean, this was not only a classic match, but you had two great wrestlers. And those two guys are definitely on my Mount Rushmore for sure, along with Ric Flair. I mean, this guy brought wrestling to the country, not just to North Carolina, and then Hulk Hogan, of course. But that match for me is by far one of the greatest matches I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm. And of course, one of the things Mick Foley was known for was being what they call an extreme wrestler, and that was part of his persona, especially in that match, because as you alluded to, once he got thrown through the cage, he actually landed on a ton of, what was it, tacks?
Tacks, yeah.
Yes.
Which to me is just insane that you would want to put your body through that. And as we all know, Mick Foley looks up with that crazy grin of his, and you can actually see one of his teeth sticking through his lip.
And blood.
And that's just shows you how crazy that guy was. But yeah, you gave us your Mount Rushmore. Any other matches that
Well,
bring to mind?
I think I remember I was a Jimmy Snookerfly Snooker fan when Roddy Piper hit him over the head with a coconut. And Piper,
Yeah, I remember that.
that was probably a classic. These guys lived their lives, or you tried to live with them when you were a kid. You thought you were. I mean, how many of us jumped off our bed and gave somebody a flying headbutt at night? I mean, or a stuffed animal or something we had on the ground. We're out there beating up. I mean, wrestling was a part of definitely my childhood. I've kind of outgrown it now, but every time I flip through the channel and I see a good match on, I'll stop and watch it.
Yeah, even when we during even wrestling, I would play with my little cousins or my siblings on the trampoline, and we will actually we'll do rock bottoms, we'll do tombstone pile drivers, choke slams off on the trampoline, and then also one time, cause my aunt had a shed, and I remember watching the Hardy Boys, Eddie Christian, and the Dudley Boys. We used to do 3D swanton bombs and even to do leg drops off the thing, and we would do them for real. We got hurt, but we kind of took it like took it like a man, or took it like a big girl, big boy. But there was some good times back then, which I can't do it now, because I'm telling you right now, if I'm doing that right now, my back gonna hurt.
Well, I'll tell you what, these guys are unbelievable athletes.
Yes.
I mean, they train hard. They're most of them are built physically. I mean, the Hardy Boys that do the flips off the ropes. I mean, and the timing of it. not only does the person doing the flips got to know what's going on, but the person who's getting hit,
Yes.
and we all know it might not be real, but the contact's real. And I'd like to see you guys next week maybe talk about the tag teams.
Yeah,
Oh, that'd be
absolutely.
fine. That'd be absolutely.
We could definitely do that. And you're talking about jumping off the trampoline. I myself, we used to do that as well. And I think that's one of the reasons why most trampolines nowadays have the protective barriers around them to keep kids nowadays from emulating
Yes.
that as well. Great discussion. We really appreciate you, Scott, for joining us again. Talk about some professional wrestling. We're going to take another quick break, and we'll be right back with more from the RO Sports Show.
Back to the RO Sports Show, brought to you tonight by First Health of the Carolinas, and we've certainly enjoyed its first edition. Let's talk about a rundown of the last week in sports, and of course a lot to look forward to next week when we return for our second episode. But let's talk about some things that have happened in this last week. I want you to tell me if you think it's good or bad. The Carolina Panthers hire Brady Hoke, former Michigan coach, 2011-2014. He's a Michigan man too, an alum of Michigan. He's now been hired by the Carolina Panthers to be the defensive line coach. Good or bad hire?
I say good, simply because he's got experience in that department. He's a defensive-minded guy, and I think initially, at least, it'll be a good fit for the Panthers.
Russell?
I would say good. I think Panthers definitely need something to help them out. And I think having a change in the coaching would definitely help them.
I believe it's a good hire because you're looking at your style of defensive line, who is doing very well with Star Latulier, Kawan Short, and Vernon Butler. And we can get those guys going, and I think we could be a dominant defensive line.
All right, and I'm going to say good as well, so we're all agreement there. Hear about this one. The offensive coordinator now for the Carolina Panthers, Norv Turner. Is Norv Turner a good or bad hire?
I'm going to go bad on this one, and it's a bit of begrudgingly, simply because I'm a Redskins fan, like we said earlier, and he used to coach the Redskins and was not successful. So I would hope that it will work out better for the Panthers, but with that being said, I'm just going to go on the bad side.
I'll go with good on this one. I again reiterating a change up in coaching I think will help out. So
I think it's a good hire because we bring in one of the best offensive-minded coaches in NFL history who can elevate Cam's game, not only in his running ability, also to learn how to stay in the pocket and be accurate.
Much needed change, in my
Yes,
opinion. I
yeah.
think that it's worth a shot. I'm going to
Yes.
say good, borderline, though, nonetheless. Blake Griffin, longtime star for the Los Angeles Clippers in the NBA. We haven't talked a lot about the NBA tonight, but he is headed to Detroit to play for the Pistons. Is this good for the Pistons or bad?
For the Pistons, I think it's good. You're going to pair him up with another big man, Andre Drummond. I think they're going to be able to be dominant under the basket. And you're talking about two guys, kind of like Anthony Davis and DeMarcus Cousins were before Cousins got hurt in New Orleans. Two guys that can control the paint and grab a ton of rebounds.
I'll go good there for Detroit. Clippers bad for them, obviously. I think losing a big name like that.
I think it's a good for the Pistons, but bad for the Clippers because you're looking at for the Pistons side of the ball. You're looking at two Twin Towers who's going to dominate the court down low, and also if they can get a guard and some role players, I think Detroit can make a lot of noise, even though they place ninth in the Eastern Conference right now.
Of course.
But for the Clippers, on the other hand, that's a bad hire. I think it's bad for them because you're losing out on a star player. Now you're leaning on DeAndre Jordan to pretty much pick up the slack. But also, you didn't really get a lot of pieces back in place, but a bunch of role guys. But we'll see what the Clippers going to do.
It's hard to see. I mean, Blake Griffin plagued by injury. possibly good for the Pistons. I like to think it's going to be good for the Pistons. A lot of guys can kind of revive their career, revive their games when they make it to another team. But with the injury as it is, and all of you saying good, I'll just say bad.
Right.
This might not be good. Stan Van Gundy says it's good. He says it's worth the risk, but there's no doubt it is a risk. We'll see if it's worth it. I say bad in the long run, folks. And that is it for your RO Sports Show's first edition. Y'all have fun, guys?
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
sir.
I had a great
time.
I don't think we got heated enough yet.
Yeah.
I'm ready to start arguing with you guys.
We're just building a rapport, so once we
Yes.
get used to
Yeah,
each
trying
other,
to feel
then
each
we're
other
ready
out.
to go.
Yeah.
It's like a dog, two male dogs that kind of get up right on next to each other, and they're not really looking at each other, but their heads are real close. It was one of them situations. But so we can end the show right, let's talk about the Tar Heels. I mean, they lose 2 games in a row,
right,
and
here
we
we
hadn't
go.
got a
There we go.
chance.
That's
to
how we can
talk.
get out.
We had a
Yes.
chance to talk about that, so I want to talk about it. First off, Matt, you couldn't be taking this more graciously. I'll say, Matt's a Tar Heels fan.
I'm a Tar Heel fan myself.
Wait. Are you
Uh-huh.
kidding me?
Yeah.
That's a backup. No,
Who
no.
hired these people?
Lance, we got to do something about that.
I know. Look, here's the thing. All right, first off, the Tar Heels defending national champs, no doubt about that. NC State getting the win in Chapel Hill this week, 95-91. And the greatest thing about it all is that it happened in overtime. Now, I said this the other day on the sports show, on Good Morning Sand Hill, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart. I would rather beat Carolina in overtime than beat them by 50 points. Because they got a little time to start coping with a loss if they're going to lose by 50 points. But if they lose in overtime, that's one of them where they thought they had a chance, but they didn't.
And even worse, it's not that far from Raleigh to Chapel Hill, but you know they had to get back on the bus after that game for that 30-minute ride or whatever it may be. And I'm pretty sure it was quiet on the way back to Chapel Hill.
I'll tell you,
Yes.
he's taking this like a champ. I don't like it. I don't like it. Something
Well,
sums up with his
as I've
attitude.
said before, right now the Tar Heels, their last 9 games, they've lost 5 of them.
That's the way we like it.
So I have no leg to
Come on,
stand
man.
on.
Really?
If I had an argument to make, and fellow Tar Heel fans, please forgive me, but if I had an argument to make, I would give it to you. But with a defense that's ranked 194th in the nation, I don't know that we're stopping anybody right now. So we got to get out of this funk that we're in.
Yeah.
And they are the Tar Heels. They're going to do well. They're going to get back in shape. Tournament time comes around, they're going to be contenders.
And I will say this, since we are reigning national champions, we
That's
can't
right.
win
You
the
had to
thing
throw that in
every
there.
year. You know, somebody else needs a turn, right? So
Yes.
we'll let someone else win it. Or who knows, we might come back on a rally and be one of those teams that gets in as kind of a mid
Be an underdog.
seed and runs the table. You never
Yeah,
know.
we never
It's
know.
hot at the right time. You never know.
Yeah, because you look at teams like George, little known school like Villanova and George Mason. You didn't think they were going to do well, but most of them had made it, and a lot of them became national champions.
That is true.
I'm still hoping for Alabama to get good at basketball.
Yeah, you
Or
don't
even-
hold your breath.
Or even our neighbor to the south, South Carolina, that just last year made it all the way to the Final Four, and I don't think anybody had
No
money
respect.
on that. So.
Or even when Stephon Curry, when he was then playing for Davidson, they made it.
Yeah, they had. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you see teams like that make the NCAA tournament. But you never see that in college football. Never.
No.
But, and a lot of times that's how the postseason's set up.
Right.
But in basketball, you can see that team, the Davidsons, the George Masons, you
Yeah.
remember years back,
March
they made
Madness
it.
is what makes it great.
Yeah.
Love
Yes.
it, and it's coming up too.
It's coming up now. It got very long.
Folks, we're going to have a lot to talk about as time progresses. You have been watching the first episode of the RO Sports Show. I'm Lance Jenkins, joined by Jeremy McKenzie, Russell Parker, and Matt Harrelson. And we will see you next week. We'll do it all over again right here, Thursdays, 5:30 p.m. on the Classic Rock, Facebook, our Facebook page, Richmond Observer, and richmondobserver.com. And remember, guys, if you have a smartphone, how much does it cost to download the Richmond Observer app?
Free.
Free.
It's free.
Big fat
I'll tell you,
zero.
man, everything, the greatest things in life are free. Folks, join us next week. We'll do it all over again. A big thanks to Scott Emerson for joining us. He is the pitching coach for the Oakland A's. About this time next week, he will be in Arizona getting ready for spring training. Folks, God bless. We'll see you next week, and we'll do it all over again. Next week, I got a feeling we talk about Carolina. Get even more heated. Folks, we'll see you next week on the RO Sports Show, brought to you tonight by First Health of the Carolinas. God bless, and so long.